right. Welcome to another episode of Connect and Politic. We're here with a special guest. Please introduce yourself by telling us your name, where you're currently located, and your favorite snack.
My name is Avi Ogbu. I am currently located on Staten Island, New York, visiting some friends, but I live in Edison, New Jersey. My favorite snack, is a Twix. I love a Twix bar.
Are you into the now? Well, I've seen like they have even green tea Twix. Like they have different specialties. Like that's not just the traditional chocolate. You're not into that. You're into the old
I
school.
don't mess with the original Twix. That's what it is. Just like the original Snicker bars. I like to keep it the way it is. That's why.
Nice. Do you remember your favorite food as a child?
My favorite food as a child? Man. I mean, it kind of translates into now. If I could think about it, it'll be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I love a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I could eat that forever.
Did you used to make them, or your parents or a sibling? How did you get into it?
Yeah, siblings and myself. But you have to make it perfect. You have to have like enough thickness of the peanut butter and a good amount of jelly, but not too much jelly. It can't be more than the peanut butter. Okay. The peanut butter has to overpower the jelly, but there has to be enough jelly to make it taste right on the perfect soft.
I see you're a chef when it comes to your PB&Js.
Great puree with the soft mixer.
Nice. So, okay, as an adult, what's your favorite meal now?
Man, I just like food, but my favorite meal, I'm such a steak person, so if it's a nice steak with some vegetables, I'm fine. Specifically broccoli. I like broccoli or spinach, but yeah.
Yeah. And this is homemade or from a
Homemade, yeah. Homemade. I don't have a certain restaurant where I'm like, oh, they serve the best. I mean, I've eaten really good steak from places, but definitely homemade.
So when was the last time you had a nice steak?
This place called Harry's Restaurant in the city. It's definitely downtown. I can't remember exactly. It's close to the seaport. The steak was just beautiful. That was like $100 steak, but it was just amazing. It was gorgeous. Oh my God. I get passionate about food. There's not many things I'm passionate about, but food.
This is a first. Yeah, I think you're the first person on Connect and Politic that's described food as gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's just beautiful, darling. It's just nice. That's crazy. What's your fondest memory from childhood?
Wow. So I have like a million siblings. No, there was 6 of us all together. And it was just us hanging out. We always had a good time together. We always like to joke around, have a good time. So my fondest memory would be just us, just always being together, making the most of our time, whether we were like pitching up tents with all the bed sheets, or just going to the park and hanging out, or even, if that many siblings, of course, parents weren't, they didn't have money. My parents were immigrants. So I would say we used to just travel together to go to the school that was offering lunch during the summers, or it was just my fondest memories it was just always with my siblings.
Yeah.
We always had a good time together.
And you said it's 6 of you?
Yeah.
Are you oldest, youngest, in the middle?
I'm 4. I'm number 4. So I'm the second middle child, if that's the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic. So, is it a mix, boys and girls?
It's a mix. It's 2 girls, 4 boys. So it's my sister, 2 boys, me, 2 boys.
Yeah. And are you guys still tight currently?
Actually, we all are. We can all actually sit in a room and be able to just have a conversation, let things flow. I mean, not everybody tells each other's secrets, but we're very upfront and honest with each other if we were to sit down and have like one-on-ones. But we're pretty tight. We're a pretty tight group. Our parents drilled that in our heads that your family is what you're going to have last with you all, you know, around you. And they said you have to stick up for each other, and we believed it, and we listened. And we listened. But I'm happy that's how they raised us. So we're a pretty fun group to be with.
Nice. What do you miss about being a child?
What everybody misses, not having bills. Not having bills. Just feeling carefree, just running through the dirt and not caring about getting dirty. Or I think that's having summer off from school. I specifically always seen like just in the summers, I remember we all had a good time, but my parents always going to work. So I was like, man, they don't have a summer break like me. So I was just like, I don't want to become an adult because my summer breaks are going to go away. So it's things like that I miss. And just, you know, back then people had a different meaning of family and being together. So I definitely miss that as a kid, just how much we used to come together as a family, even extended family. So that's what I miss. I'm an extrovert, so I miss like all that, you know.
So, I mean, that's given what you just said, you know, you being an extrovert, how are you been coping during the quarantine? You see,
I mean, there were times when I would like go to my window and wave at my neighbors, and I live in a new area, so nobody knows me. I'm like waving, I'm like talking to the squirrels outside, naming them Tito. I named all of them Tito. So if I see squirrels, Tito. It was rough. I mean, to be completely transparent, like I've had like mini meltdowns because I'm such an extrovert. I love interacting with people, and the fact that I had to just stay inside most of the time and not go out or get to really see friends. I would see myself hopping onto Zooms a lot and stuff like that, but it wasn't the same. I still felt like a huge disconnect. I just need that human connection. I didn't want to talk through a screen. I wanted to be able to hug my friends. So that was tough. I mean, it was hard. It wasn't easy being an extrovert. I went food shopping just to see people.
I've heard the grocery store has become, you know, like a club.
It was a club. It was. So, I mean, it's been rough, but at the end of the day, we managed most of it. I managed. You know.
Have you always been were you an extrovert as a child as well?
No. It's funny, people go through phases. As a child, I mean, I talked a lot. I was a chatterbox. It was on my report cards. I don't know how, but growing up, I felt like I was just more shy. I was very quiet. I was like the quiet kid, but if we were close, then that was different. But I was definitely a quiet kid. I wasn't the person to just like make friends with anybody. Now that's a completely different story, but back then it wasn't. My brother, who's a year younger than me, will be hanging out. We hung out a lot, and he would be like, oh, let's go make friends with these kids. And I'm like, more people. Like, I was just like, all right, whatever. I mean, I like hanging out with you, so I'll just make friends with these people. I was not that way. And it's so funny because now it's reversed. He's very sociable and charismatic, but he's not like making friends with everybody. And meanwhile, I'm like still talking to people that he's just like, I didn't even know you were still friends with them. I don't even talk to them anymore. So yeah, I definitely was not an extrovert when I was younger.
Yeah. How do you think your childhood helped groom you into the person you are today?
All right, so do you want like how I was raised as a Nigerian? Because
I mean that's I'm sure that's at the core of your fabric. So you might as well, you know, let us know.
I mean, it's weird. Wow. It was a strict household. Like dad was strict, mom was loving and strict. Man, how did it now as a person? You would have thought I would have like, I don't know. I would definitely say, based on how they raised us with a lot of like core values and traditions, these are things that I hold so near and dear to me even now, talking about like family. And I wish that, you know, that was still together, but being an extrovert, darn it. I mean, wow. I wasn't prepared for that one. But I would say just the way they raised us, to care about other people, to not judge people, to treat people the way you want to be treated, to not trust everybody, which is weird. It's kind of hard because you want to be able to trust people, but they, even so, you always have to like just keep one eye. They said, you know, don't go to, just have one eye open and when you go to sleep at somebody's house, or just do this or do that. So they raised us in a way where be open and loving to people, but always know that anybody can do the worst thing possible. Don't put anything past anybody. I was watching a movie where it's just like, it's not that I don't trust you, I don't trust the devil inside of you. So that's how they raised us, like that. It's definitely molded me. Like, I'm a super extrovert. There's times when I can be like naive, but at the end of the day, if I heard something that somebody did the worst thing possible, I'm like, people are like, I can't believe that. Because you people just do things in the most odd ways or whatever. And I would say I'm very traditional. I'm unconventional, but I'm very traditional in many ways. And I think the tradition stems from the way they've raised us with family dinners, or just certain things ingrained in us, how important education is. Just so many things, how they raised us, but not everything you can take from what they taught you and apply it to now, or it just doesn't even apply to who I am as a person. So,
yeah. What do you think are the most important lessons that you learned from them, from both mom and dad?
Don't get a credit card so soon, which it took me a while to get. When my friend had to convince me to get a credit card because they taught me the importance of it and the responsibility of it. I wanted to go away to college and dorm there, and it was just too much money for them to pay. They had 6 of us, so me wanting to go to a school that was going to cost $50K a year was not possible. So they were like, you have to go to a nearby college. I went to John Jay. It's an amazing college, but their thing was, don't take out any loans because you'll be going to school and that's great, but by the time you're done, you'll be working for that loan. And when they made me feel like I had to be like attached to something and bonded to something where I can't have freedom, I was just like, So I worked like sometimes 2 jobs to go to school. I went to school part-time. It took me 9 years to get my undergrad, but I'm so happy that I'm sitting here now and I don't have loans that a lot of people do have. And it's unfortunate, but lucky for me, I definitely took that advice from them. What else? They definitely keep your head high. Have pride in who you are. You walk in the same room that you're sitting in as the president, you have this, like they ingrain it in you that you're just as great as the greatest person that you think you're sitting next to. And it's just one of those things where people feel like, oh, I walk in a room and I sometimes feel like intimidated. And I'm like, I never feel intimidated. And it's because of the way they've raised me to have that pride as a person. So I just feel like that's one of the most important things that I've ever been able to. It's important, but also it has gotten me into trouble. Because if somebody wants to talk to me a certain way, or a boss or something, I'm just like, So it's just like, who are you? I know you're my boss, but what's your tone? Can we talk about that tone? So it's definitely got me into trouble, especially with teachers, because I'm like, yeah, you're an adult, but I'm also making sense too. So, rebel with the cause, but they definitely, I would say those things, they've taught me well.
So when you stayed at home while you went to undergrad? Or
yep.
And then after undergrad is when you finally left?
As far as home, I was living home until I was about 30.
So what surprised you when you left? Like when you transitioned into your own place, and you were dealing with the world, what like was there anything that surprised you?
No, I don't think so because I feel like my parents gave me so much freedom while I was living there. I was still allowed to have my life and have a good time and whatever. I think the only thing what did surprise me is how much I would need my parents after I moved out. I thought like, this is good. Like I'll call you, I'll check in on you and that's it. But I needed them not in a monetary kind of way. My dad did pass away by the time I moved out. But I did feel like I just needed them in a more an emotional way because I wasn't the kind of person that like I loved my parents, but I wasn't always like I wasn't checking in with them for advice. I went to my friends for advice. Like some siblings would my sister would like have conversations with my mom about like everything. I was the kind of person who was just like I'll figure it out. I'll talk it through with my friends. That's what my friends are for. My parents, my friends, my friends. But after I moved out, I realized like man, this world is crazy. Ain't nobody got my back like my mama. and I definitely became much closer to my mom after I moved out because I feel like I didn't take our relationship for granted, but I wasn't emotionally invested in having like a real authentic mother and daughter relationship with her where I would actually emotionally depend on her. I felt like at some point I didn't. I felt like I had a strong head on my shoulders. I can make decisions. But when I moved out, I was just like, Mom, I need you on a whole different level. So yeah.
No, that's great, and I'm sure she was happy.
Oh yeah, she is. She loves it.
I'm sure. What are your favorite things to do for self-care?
Well, two of my side hustles. I'm a skincare consultant, so that's one of the things I do. I make sure to just take care of my skin. Sometimes put my phone away for a couple of hours is self-care because I just feel like I'm always inundated with social media and always checking my phone. So even self-care is putting my phone away and just being present in a moment, whether it's cleaning up the house or cooking or just relaxing. Self-care for me is reading a book that I can indulge in, drink a glass of wine. It's a bubble bath. Self-care is just so many things, but I just feel like it's just plugging into myself again. Even sitting in silence, I literally would have nothing is on in my apartment and I would just sit in silence and I love it. I get to hear myself think. So that's another way of self-care, is just being able to hear my own heart voice and know what's going on with me. That would definitely be like my top tier stuff for self-care.
Yeah.
And working out.
You say and working out?
Mm-hmm.
What type of workouts do you do?
Jogging is the best for me because I feel like my mind is just, I'm not thinking about anything but just jogging. My mind is clear. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying like nature. So that's what I love about jogging. It's very therapeutic for me. So that's the best. That's what I love doing the most. And aside from jogging, then it'll just be like the, whatever you call it, this, put on the TV and YouTube and you follow the person doing this and that. Exercises, the abs or the cardio and strength or whatever the case is. But that I do enjoy too. I like it. It kicks my butt. I think that's why I get annoyed because, I push myself for that.
Yeah. What do you do? So, I mean, it's a two-parter, but what do you do for self-growth? And then I actually wanted to go back to what you said about, turning things off. Is that your main strategy to reduce distractions, or do you have other strategies to reduce distractions?
Okay. So first one was, what was the first one again?
Actually, let's just go with, we'll come back to the other one, the self-growth one. But yeah, what are your strategies to reduce distraction?
Okay, so it usually is doing one thing at a time, because I have this habit of like, oh, I can multitask, this is great, but then you end up really not paying attention to something gets the short end of the stick. So it's usually doing one thing at a time where I can just plug in. So it helps reduce, me being distracted by 20 other different things. And like, say if I'm texting somebody about something, but I'm also like trying to cook and trying to do like something else in my apartment, I realize that something is going to get the short end of the stick. So either the person I'm texting about like whatever the heck we're talking about, I'd like to be invested in my conversations, or whether my food's being cooked and it's not going to come out the right way. So I like to just handle one task at a time, or yeah, I think that's usually it. Handling one task at a time so I could be more present in it, so that it could just be what it needs to be.
Yeah, no, that's good. So what are some things you do for self-growth?
Drink wine. No.
Well, I mean, that you're growing, yeah. So I guess that counts. Yeah.
To answer that seriously, for self-growth, I could say I like to read books that are like personal development books. Okay. So right now I'm reading a book. Am I supposed to announce this book? Maybe not. I don't think he's announced it yet, but he's just an amazing author. So I'm reading a book that is amazing, but I also like to read personal development books. Romy Newstead. I can't remember this other guy's name, but it's an amazing book. Podcasts. I do listen to podcasts. And then also I challenge myself mentally because I'm not perfect. I've learned this. Not a good lesson. I don't like it. But so when I'm sitting down and say I see something that like gets me upset, or I think of something that like makes me angry, I ask myself, why does that make you angry? Or something somebody did to me that necessarily they didn't do to offend me, but I got offended. So I question myself and I'm like, well, why did you get offended? Why did you get upset? They didn't mean to do it. So what in that person's actions bothered you? And I do a lot of self-reflection. That helps with a lot of the self-growth also, because I mean, you have to just to be a better person inside and out, and just to practice being mindful of what triggers me, or mindful of the fact that it's not all about me, and people aren't perfect, but just because they're not perfect, I'm not perfect, but I just have to grow in areas that are lacking. And I think that's always important, to just be able to respond instead of react and stuff like that. Yeah.
What are so you mentioned, podcasts as something for self-growth. What are your top two?
Jay Shetty. He always has like amazing guests. He used to be a monk. I love anything that's attached to just spirituality. So, and I feel like because he was a practicing monk before, that there's just so many seeds of wisdom, and he brings on a lot of people that have like just impeccable worth in what they have to share. And I just love to add a lot of tools to my toolbox. So he's one of them. And then there's another one where it's called Style Your Mind. Pretty much speaks to an entrepreneur mindset on just not just limiting beliefs, but just when you feel like your thoughts are so huge and so big, but you don't know how to organize your thoughts, or things that you overthink, that helps you condense it. So it's definitely, those are my top two.
Okay. And you also mentioned self-help books.
Yes.
What are your top two self-help books?
I suck because I'm always reading them, but I never finish them. So
have you read one about completion? About completing the task?
I where this one's going. I got the lesson, but thank you very much for giving me your words of wisdom. One of them is actually Jay Shetty.
Oh, okay.
I actually put it in my planner to make sure I read 2 chapters from each of the 3 to 4 books that I'm reading right now. And another one was, or is, darn it, I wish I had the book with me and I'm at my friend's house, but it's a really good book and I cannot think of the name, but I will go with Romy Newstead. She's a great author. She's somebody that I've known within my skincare industry, and it's a very tough book. It's like one of your best friends talking to you about like getting your shit together. And she asks a lot of the hard questions, and I like that. I like when people can ask the hard questions and you're forced to think about it, even if you can't answer it right then and there. So I would definitely say her book specifically. It's you can have it all, but not at the same time. And it kind of just it also reminds you that everything you want, you can work towards it, but you're not going to have it all at the same time, and that's okay. And a lot of us think like we need to have everything at the same time to be happy or to be fulfilled or to be this, but it's just like one thing at a time. Just slow down. So definitely, I would say them two are my two runners. A hardcore person that questions you, and then other person with the spiritual journey and guiding you through.
Yeah. If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Man, if I was to write a book, and this is not a shameless plug, because I just started podcasting for the fun of it, for my fun of it. It's not something I really throw out there on my own social media just once in a while, because it's a hobby. Shadow work. I would definitely write a book about shadow work. I just think it's very interesting because a lot of us just go through life just trying to get rid of all the things that society tells us is bad, or, teachers, parents, parts of us that we shed, parts of us that we put in a box and don't deal with. But then at some point when you're hitting your teens and your 20s and you're a grown adult, by the time you're continuing, there's parts of you that you don't know how to deal with because you were told that you weren't supposed to deal with it, or it's bad, or don't touch that, or don't mess with that. So we put it in a box, we throw it behind us, or we just put it in a bag and it's always behind us. And it's something we're always trying to muster out or just simmer, keep on a hush, but it tends to rear its head all the time. So we never know how to deal with it, but we know it's there, just waiting to spaz out every now and then. And sometimes causes a lot of issues. So, but these are things that the shadow work isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's the magic of somebody. Sometimes it's just the other half of us that makes us seem contradicting, but it is who we are. And I would definitely love to write a book about that if I ever wrote a book at all.
So, okay. So you currently have a podcast, right? Is what you, yeah. Okay. And is the podcast, what's the podcast called?
The Shadow Work.
Okay. And on the podcast, are you discussing this very topic? Like, do you have guests, or is it's just you talking about?
Just me in 10 minutes or less, talking about either a lesson I learned or just about it in general.
Okay. So if we were on the elevator, right on the 10th floor, tell me about the shadow work. And we're going down, right? So we're going from 10 to first. In that time period, tell me about the core idea that you're trying to get across with the shadow work.
I'll ask you a question. I'll ask you, is there a part of, like, how were you as a kid? How were you as a kid where you are, is there something, were you silly as a kid in class? Were you that kind of kid that, just had like a weird quirk about you? Did you write left-handed or right? Did you write left-handed? Was it something that you weren't allowed to do? Were you told that it was bad to just act out or act silly in class or be a class clown? Or you had a little meltdown and you were told to never do that again. You weren't told how to deal with your meltdown or acting out as a silly kid in class. You were told to just never be silly again. So you thought it was just not good to be silly. It was just something you couldn't do. So you tuck that away and you just know, all right, well, in class, I can't be silly. I'll never be silly. I mean, obviously it's class. You have to act a certain way. But then also growing up, not every parent allows you to be silly. As crazy as it sounds, when you're born, when you're raised in a Nigerian household, you are not allowed to be silly. I don't know. I wouldn't say that everybody's family, but 10th floor going down, man.
We're already at the the fourth floor.
Fourth floor. All right. Man. It's the part of you that contradicts you. It's the part of you of somebody asks you, tell me about yourself. And you talk about, I'm determined, I'm funny, I'm charismatic, I'm passionate about like X, Y, and Z. This is my hopes, my dreams. And we tend to just talk about like the positive things about us. We never tend to talk about like, I'm determined, but I'm a little lazy. You know, I'm an extrovert, but I'm really not crazy about people all the time. Or I'm an extrovert, but I'm also socially awkward as hell. Or you know, I love people and I love to love on them and what they're going through and congratulate them. But at the same time, I feel like, what was I about to say? I feel like, damn, I want that too. And it's just the contradicting things. So we would only say, yes, I'm determined, but we also feel afraid to say, yes, I'm lazy. Or, yes, I'm happy for you, but I'm also not happy for you because I'm not happy for myself. And these are the things that's the shadow work. And people don't like to say these things. They like to hide that they can be jealous. Or, yeah, I like to kind of share, but I only share because it's frowned upon that I'm selfish as hell. And there are things like that. It's just like, people tend to just put away the emotion instead of dealing with the selfishness or dealing with the fact that they were silly. I mean, I could say growing up, I wasn't allowed to be silly in front of my dad. So I had to kind of, it's weird. I mean, it's great that the friends that I had then for a while, from like 4th grade to somewhere in my 20s, early 30s. But I had a friend and a group of us even before that where, at least because of them, I knew I just still held on to that. But in the house, you had to be like a stoic, serious person. So it's just an outburst. You kind of don't know who you are because you're kind of like just trying to cover up who you are. It's just a weird thing. But I would definitely say that the shadow work does deal a lot with the things that we're told we can't be. Mm-hmm. You can't be angry and hot-headed all the time. So you try to always be nice, but you're not naturally nice. I know a lot of people where it's just like, oh no, I'm just trying to be nice. And it's just like, oh my God, I can't effing whatever. And it's just like, why can't you be that way? Just, so yeah.
I see. And you said you don't record a lot of the episodes?
I do. I just started. It's brand new. I started it at the very top tip of COVID, right as COVID hit. So I just started. 10 minutes or less, and I record, and it's a hobby, a fun hobby.
Do you have like 100 episodes?
No. I'm probably at like 7 or 8, and right now I'm on break until November.
A self-imposed break?
Yep.
Oh, like you said it like the production company is on vacation or something. I'm like, what? I thought this is like your own.
I am the production company. I'm the CEO of the production company.
Oh man, that's funny. Oh, okay. What do you do? What do you do in your professional life? And is Is it different than what you imagined doing as a kid? What were you
Oh,
dreaming about doing
yeah.
as a kid?
And I thought I was going to be a teacher or a lawyer. Teacher because I was like, I love to teach people. I love it. But then at some point, I started to realize kids act up in school and you can't beat them. And this is not Nigeria. So I was just like, I'm not going to become a teacher because these kids are disrespectful and that's it. So I was just like, all right, I'm not doing that. Lawyer, wanted to become a lawyer, but this one lady, and I don't want to say she messed it up for me, but she guided me right. She said, do you want to have a family and kids? I said, yeah. She says, don't ever become a lawyer because you'll have no time for your family or your kids. I was 14 when she told me this. She's like, getting divorced and I'm unhappy and I never have enough time for my kids. She's like, that's the best advice I'll give you. And she was an attorney. I was raised Catholic and this priest was so excited for me to meet this attorney woman so she can give me advice of being an attorney. And she told me, don't become one. And I was just like, well, there goes that dream. And I'm kind of happy because career-wise, I've worked in law firms for like about 10, 12 years and very unhappy, very busy, mostly underpaid. If you're not working in a top-notch law firm, you're jumping from law firm to law firm, trying to make a bigger buck doing the same thing. Obviously, a lot of us do that in general in life. So I was happy that she gave me that advice. And right now I am working as an account executive in the unemployment industry, but we work for the employers and we correspond with the state. So I'm mentally doing amazing right now. Never pictured that I'll be doing this though, because I was always raised to be like a doctor, a lawyer, work in a Senate, something.
Yeah.
But here I am.
Yeah. So how did you, have you reconciled speaking of shadow work, have you reconciled the image that you had in your head of yourself professionally as a kid and what you are in reality?
Wow, you listen. So let me it took me I'm 34 and it was when I was about I remember, God, that was 2 years ago when I was 32. And I was just struggling. I was just I was annoyed because I felt like I was always left behind. So I went to school for my undergrad. It took me 9 years. And, my boyfriend at the time had to remind me that he was like, well, you paid for it. You held 2 jobs to put yourself through your undergrad. So, but I always felt like I was left behind because then I felt like by the time I was done, all my friends had their degree already over 5 years or had that paying job. So I always felt like I was behind. And it was just frustrating because I felt like I was supposed to be this, I was supposed to be that. I was supposed to already have been a director at a job or have been in a supervisor position. So for me, I always felt like I was just working as an admin or just not as this grand, amazing person I was supposed to be, like Olivia Pope in a Scandal or something. So it was hard because I'm very hard on myself. I'm not easy on myself with my accomplishments. I'm the kind of person where I accomplish one thing and I'm only happy for 2 minutes because then I'm already thinking about the next thing that I have to do and accomplish. I don't know if it's based on how I was raised and who I am. So that's just the clash of both of those worlds that came down hard on me. It took me, I reconciled with it, but it was hard. It took me to actually just pretty much lay out everything in my life that I did have, everything that I did accomplish. And it was something that I just started doing sometime last year, was laying out all my accomplishments, where I'm actually doing something this year where anything that makes me, that's exciting or makes me happy, or I was a great win, I write it down on a piece of paper and I put it in a jar. And by the end of the year, I'm going to open it up and read just how amazing my year was. Because I have a way of downplaying the things that I do, the things that I've accomplished. I just have to start celebrating small wins. I don't spend enough time celebrating small wins. I feel like, the way we were raised was like, you bring home 85, great, but you got to get 90. Bring home 90, great, but you have to get like 92, 90. Like, it was just like, you bring home an A, you got to get the A plus. You bring home an A plus, it has to be an A plus plus, and nobody else in your class can get it. Like, you have to squeeze everybody out. So it was one of those things where you just always felt like you were going. So I feel like even growing up, that is exactly how I have been up until like 2 years ago, where last year I was just like, that's it, that's enough, I'm not doing this anymore. That's when I first encountered doing the shadow work myself, not realizing that's what I was doing. And then this year I put into place to celebrate my small wins, because I have a great way of just keep going. And it's affected definitely affected, just being as a partner. It just sucks because I've made my partner then at the time feel like I always wanted to just do the next thing, and I just wasn't present. And that's frustrating to be with somebody that just feels like nothing around them can make them happy, because they're always looking for like the next win, the next this, the next that. So
yeah. Is there anything on your bucket list that you want to learn or do?
I want to learn how to speak Italian, and I want to go to Greece. I want to travel more. Like, that's definitely on my bucket list. I just want to travel more. Like, I just want to swim. I don't want to swim with the fishes. I'm lying. This whole texture thing is like, you slimy, don't touch me. So I just want to, I want to travel more. I want to travel more. And on my bucket list, if I could do mission work once a year, even if it's in this country, doesn't have to be overseas internationally, I would love to do it, because I feel like it's helped center me so much when I have done it. But yeah, I'll definitely volunteer more. Bucket list, make $1 million a year.
Nice.
All right, I can't let that go. Yeah, I would say those travel more,
earn more. Right? That's
yeah.
Is that the trifecta? Travel more, earn more, serve more.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Is there something you want to unlearn?
Yeah. I think I'm sensitive. And I think along the way, I've just learned how to be kind of like rough around the edges. I wish I could unlearn that. Because it wasn't until like a year or two ago I realized how sensitive I was. I was like, maybe you're actually sensitive as hell. So I would love to unlearn that. Anything else? No, I think it'll be that. So I'm not as vulnerable. With a lot of friends would tell you, like, just coming along the way, I wasn't always a vulnerable friend. So I think because I've always had to be like hard and whatever, and that was just, I thought it was just me, but it wasn't me. It was just me, I guess, protecting sensitive me, who I didn't realize was sensitive.
No, okay, so you're saying you're naturally sensitive, and you would like to not be sensitive, or you want to?
I wish I was aware I was sensitive.
You want to embrace your sensitivity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else I learned? No, I think. No.
Okay. Have you, speaking of learning, have you learned anything recently that you would, say change your perspective on an idea or subject or product? And recently could be, the last 12 months.
What have I learned recently? I mean, I don't think so. If there's anything that I've learned recently, I might be lying. I'm sure I've learned something recently that's definitely.
Can you think of any advice that you would give your younger self?
Hmm. 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 Walk away. Walk away.
That's profound advice. Let's double tap that a little. So what's the what do you want? What are you walking away from? You know, like what is that advice? Is it specific to, you know, certain aspects of your life, certain incidents?
Certain aspects and incidents. I feel like I'm the kind of person like I always show up for a fight. So, and it's not the kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna put my headscarf on because somebody wants to fight me kind of thing. But it was just like if there was just like a disagreement between me and a friend, I'm showing up. Like I will argue tooth and nail for something just to be right, and it's just like it's not worth it. Walk away. There's situations where I feel like I just did not need to be present. I could have just walked away. So it was just like just walk away. That would be the best advice. That's why my father said I should be an attorney, because I like to like nitpick and I like to argue semantics. I will argue every single thing. You say 3 sentences, and if I will go through every single word and break apart things and go through here and go through there. So yep, I would just definitely say walk away. It's not always worth it.
Are you taking your advice now?
Oh yeah, I'm a calm person. Calm, um, excitable, but definitely walk away. Not everything needs to be addressed in a certain time.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. But my younger self was not calm. So
When did you make the transition?
it depends who you're asking. I mean, if you're asking me, I would tell you, sheesh. Depends who you're asking. I would say a couple of years ago,
Okay.
maybe last year. In a relationship, I'll tell you last year. But I would say even with friends, not friends, just in situations, I would say late 20s, late 20s, late 20s.
So you said in a relationship it would be last year or a couple months ago, right?
Last year, this year, Jesus, this year, the mold. Definitely last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. That's growth. That's growth. That's good. What's the best advice you've received about money?
About money?
Yeah.
Ooh, the best advice I received about money. Find a way to multiply it. Multiply it and save. Just don't spend it all, but find a way to multiply it. So if you get $2, find a way to make it 10. And it's not something like my parents had give, like they gave advice to save money, but just over time, financial literacy, coming across things, and it's just like, all right, great, I have $10, but do I want to save the $10 or do I want to multiply it and save the 10 and make the extra and just keep putting away? So that's the best advice I've gotten, and something I've been working hard to do.
And what's your strategy to multiply?
Well, definitely, I have side gigs in between skincare and athleisure wear. So that is definitely one of my strategies. Um, and I would love to get into the whole stocks, I'm not sure what Bitcoin is, but people talk about it. I've heard about it. I was told two different various stories, but that's just another way I wanted to see my money grow, keep it slow and steady.
You mentioned skincare, and you say
Athleisure wear.
athleisure wear. What these are your companies, or these are
MLMs, network marketing.
okay. Cool, cool. Do you want to promote them here? I know we're not getting any sponsorship, but
Well, I'm selling skincare through Rodan and Fields, and the doctors are proactive and they are running strong. It's the best products I've ever tried. So, I mean, it's honestly the best out there. They're number one in North America. So, so it's great. I mean, nothing customers. And then also I do athleisure wear, where it's a luxe line and an everyday line, and they are very new, called Savvy, and I enjoy it. Like, it's comfortable clothing that it's for every body type. It's from extra small all the way to 3X. You can't walk into places that, not every place sells athleisure wear that fits that many body types. So, which is very important because I am a large. I probably fit in the 8 range, and I can't walk into Lululemon and get my size. Even a girl that wears a size 6 can't get Lululemon clothing. So we make that kind of quality, but also a cheaper price tag. So that's the good thing. And it stays up on your gut. It doesn't roll down.
Nice.
So it's the plus for me.
Nice. What has been the toughest thing you've had to tackle, and what helped you get through it?
The toughest thing I had to tackle?
Yes.
Man. I mean, let me put some in a hat and let me pull one out. The toughest thing I had to tackle, I think, was just doing the shadow work myself. I would say that is just holding myself accountable for my own self-growth, and not just going through life like whatever. Because at some point I just felt like, you know, I am who I am. I don't like, this is me, like, just accept it. Like, I don't care. And it was just going back to apologize to people that I've hurt or dismissed. Just owning up to my shit. That had to be the toughest thing, because I'm a woman of pride and I'm always right, and I'm not. I'm a pain in the ass. So that had to be the toughest thing that I had to tackle. It's just going back to people and saying I'm sorry, and just being humble and vulnerable with people. That would be the toughest thing.
Yeah, and what helped you get through that?
Damn, what to put me in that place? I didn't like how people felt about, I wanted to be a better, like, just not even just a better a friend, but just a better person. Like, I didn't like that part. Like, it was just, sometimes I was just nonchalant about somebody's feelings being hurt, and not because something I necessarily directly did, but just like, you know, I don't want to show up to your birthday, so I just don't want to show up. Or I was just like, oh, I indirectly did something to hurt your feelings. Okay, whatever, it's indirect. Like, I wasn't hurting your feelings, so get over it. Like, so I think, I honestly don't even know how I just reached that. I think I reached that point where I realized I was hurting people, and hurting people that I love, and people that will stick their neck out for me. And that's not how you treat people you love. And I feel like, because I always trumped myself on being such a good person, I would say, like, early on in life, like, just being such a good friend. And I felt like I got hard over a while, because I felt like I stuck my neck out for people all the time. And I felt like I was just the person that was just always a good friend, always a person that was just always there saying yes to everything. And at one point I threw my hands up in the air and was just like, I'm just done showing up for people. I'm tired. but it wasn't kind. And over that period of time, that's when I started to like just dismiss people, which wasn't nice. But what I think what's kept me going, what's kept me strong is just over time, I just started to soften up. I started to soften up. And I think it was because I lost my dad in 2015. And I think after coming out of that grief and just realizing all the people that were by my side, and these were the same people that I would offend, or same people that I was just like I was rough around the edges with, I was just like, I can't be this way. And I think that's what woke me up. That is what, along the way, I was just like, nah, I have to be better. So that's exactly what did it. Just, and knowing how miserable I was in my grief, and I wasn't necessarily taking anything out on anybody, but I wasn't necessarily kind. And just looking back, and even then coming out of my grief, I would say, even when I see myself going back to apologize to people that didn't know me before my dad passed away, or just started to meet me at that point, but see me in such horrible ways, I went back to apologize to them, but then I started to think about like, well, who else have you offended, or what have you done? So over time, you know, my heart softened up, and that's what did it for me.
Yeah.
Man, I'm being too honest. What's going on?
You know, while listening to you, I felt like there was something else that was the toughest thing you had to tackle, and you don't want to talk about it, but you kind of actually talked about it indirectly in an interesting way, and so I understand. I lost a parent as well, and for me, it is the toughest thing I've had to tackle, and I've tackled a lot of things, but you know. Time for a fun question. So, if you won the lottery tomorrow, what would you do?
Buy my mama a house. That's the first thing I would do, is buy her a house. It's the first thing I'll do.
Anything else?
First, there's a million things I could do after that, but I would definitely buy her a house first.
Yeah. Do you have a place in mind? Like a state, a country?
She wants, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I love Pennsylvania. I always wanted to move out there. So I would probably by force buy her a house out in PA, because she wants to stay in Jersey. I mean, as far as siblings, we're on Staten Island and in Jersey. So she wants to stay in Jersey. I'm just like, the next move is Pennsylvania. We're not staying in Jersey. But yeah, I would most likely just put her in Pennsylvania somewhere, or not really, just wherever she wants. It's really where she wants.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. Well, we got to make that happen. So that's your task for the next couple of years,
Yes, you're right. Next couple. You only give me a couple. I was raised, so this has to be 6 months. This has to be 6 months to 8 months.
All right. So there you go. You got 6 months. When I say forgiveness, what comes to mind?
Oddly enough, nothing came to mind. And I only say this because I feel like in my heart, I've done a lot of work forgiving people. I could think of one person, but that's only because it's new. And it's somebody unrelated to like my personal life or anybody I've ever known for a long time. So I would definitely say what comes to mind now is that it's easier when I love a person. It's when it's a stranger or somebody that like slighted me a certain way and doesn't really know me. I'm not, it's just not as easy. But when I love a person, it's different. So forgiveness For me, it's just easier when I love somebody.
Yeah. Is there anyone you would like to thank or show an appreciation for that you haven't had the chance to yet?
I mean, we can always start with myself.
That's the perfect place to start. You know, this is your Grammy speech. You know, start with yourself.
If I ever had to think of anybody that I've never gotten to thank, yes, my high school principal, and anybody that knew her would be like, and knew my dynamics with her, were like, you'll think her, Miss Bricker. She was tough as nails. She was not everybody's best person, but she was tough. And in high school, I had another loss in high school, which was my oldest brother. And I was 14. Right before I went to high school, I lost him. So it was just a whole transition and change. And the person I was the first 2 years in high school was completely different from who I was the last 2 years of high school and who I just was before then. I was grieving him, and it was just horrible. But she was tough and showed me like zero to no mercy. And but at the same time, she knew how to speak to me. And I mean, she looked like she was just always on a rampage or always like looking for my trouble. And it wasn't true. I was always being a troublemaker for the first 2 years, where I always got kicked out. But she sat down and had one conversation with me, and since then I changed. And I wish I could thank her. I mean, I know I've held a lot of like annoyance for her in my heart through all of high school, because it was like a love-hate thing for her, because she was still like a, kind of crude or just an off woman. But she is one person I'd like to thank. She really is.
Nice. Okay, for our final question, how do you define success?
I'm still trying to figure that out, because I always thought success was making a lot of money. I always thought success was having that like profession that you can decorate, like your PhD on the wall and then your doctorate and all your accolades. Like I thought that's what success was. I'm just like slowly changing my mind about it, but it's not full circle for me just yet. In my heart, success should just be being happy, waking up happy, just being grateful for the things in your life, just being able to take things in. Just success is, it's your health. It's so many other things, and I'm slowly coming to terms with that. Although I don't feel like I lack success, which is crazy, because I'm happy. And it took me a long time to not think that you can only be happy if you're successful. So, yeah, I would definitely say it's along those terms. It's more of the things in your life that enrich your life, opposed to just always chasing the next big thing, which is something I've done for so long that now this is probably just very recent, within the last year and a half, that the definition of success has been changing for me. So
Nice. Yeah, I mean, the response of happiness equating to success is a common one. We connected, we politic, and it was a blast talking to you. Thanks for joining us today.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.